Hi there, I'm so glad you were able to join me. Did you know that you needed a doctor's note in order to skydive when you're 40 years old? Well, back in my day, that's the way it was. And I didn't take too kindly to that. You can't tell me I'm too old. No, don't get me wrong, it's not that I wanted to skydive, it's just that I didn't want to be told that I couldn't. So at 39 years of age, and despite my acrophobia, I decided I'd have to take the leap before it was too late. Now, I reasoned that I needed a number of adventures in order to get my courage up. So I contacted my fearless friend, Gracie, who quickly agreed to help me get over my fear and, more importantly, to skydive. Now, our first escapade was the drop zone. It's an amusement park ride where you lie in the slingshot contraption and you're drawn back 20 stories, pull a rope, and move forward. I quickly nominated Grace to be the one to pull the rope, reasoning that I would do it the next time. Slowly, we got pulled back into place, and I still remember that pregnant pause before Gracie pulled the rope. Whack! Off we went. The pressure in my lungs became too much. I screamed, and I screamed. Next to me, Gracie is howling in glee. Luckily, my embarrassment was just witnessed by a few curious bystanders. Now, we must have gone on that ride about 10 times, and at some point during the evening, my screams turned into bellows of woohoo! Even though I never pulled the rope, I felt that I was well on the way to jumping out of a plane. So our next adventure was hang gliding, tandem, of course. Putting the harness into place and getting into position, waiting for the air conditions to be just right, I treasured the feeling of my feet against the earth and within hand distance. Too soon, the contraption started to move forward and the wings took flight. Now, I didn't scream this time, but it was because I didn't want to scare the pilot. With no other choice, I started to relax and enjoy my surroundings, the treetops, the blue sky. I was fearless. I had conquered the drop zone and hang gliding. Certainly jumping out of a plane would be a cakewalk. So when I was offered the opportunity to learn how to pilot a helicopter, I jumped at it. Focusing more on the instructions, getting into the cockpit, putting the seat belts in place, working the feet pedals, the hand lever, making sure that the helicopter stayed upright and steady. When the instructor told me that it was more difficult to pilot a helicopter than a plane, I knew it was time to up my game. The CN Tower. Being in that little glass compartment, hurtling up to the top, was nothing compared to what I knew was in store. Once more, Gracie and I put our harnesses in place, and of my own free will, I put the carabiner on the line and walked through the open door to the outside ledge. Greeted by the sun and a breeze, I shuffled over until the group ended up joining us. Our tour guide decided to take a photo of us, which I have to this day, and I still cringe when I look at that forced fake smile, especially when it's compared to Grace's open and sunshiny smile. We continued to go around the outside of the CN Tower, and again, I started to relax and take in the sights. How big Lake Ontario was, the landmarks of downtown Toronto, Midtown, and Uptown. Then the guide suggested that we play a game, King of the World. It's from Titanic, where one of the actors leans forward in the boat, enjoying the sense of freedom and air. So one by one, the people were asked to come to the top, to the ledge, and trusting the strength of the carabiner, trusting the strength of their knees, they leaned forward over the edge. Now, I'm not ashamed to tell you that as each person stepped forward, I stepped back. And to this day, I wonder if my shoulder blades are imprinted on the CN Tower. Now, the guide was very nice, and he asked me numerous times if I wouldn't reconsider saying that I might regret not doing the game once I went inside. In that instant, I realized I didn't have a fear of heights. I had a fear of falling. I realized the silliness of this goal. This was not something to conquer. This is a natural instinct. We avoid jumping out of moving objects, especially one 1,000 feet in the air. This was a healthy fear, one to be treasured and nurtured. So it was good that I had this epiphany, because shortly after, Grace said to me that we really should give up these stunts. So it was with a heavy heart I decided to hang up my harness. I thought I handled the situation with grace. Flying forward 10 years, Grace is planning her birthday, and I happily join her going to luau's and seeing turtles. And on one particular tour, the guide says, "Is anyone afraid of heights?" And automatically my hand goes up. Looking around, no one. "Gracie, where are we going?" "Oh, didn't I tell you? We're going to rappel down 40-foot waterfalls." Waivers signed, harnesses dusted off and back in place. The carabiners checked and rechecked. Me on one side of the waterfall, Gracie on the other. Me afraid of falling. Grace afraid of drowning. Despite all instincts, we push back until we're leveled to the earth and let go, descending into the waterfalls. Within seconds, you can hear our bellows of woohoo, putting aside our fears and just embracing the adventure. Now, I was the first one to go into the water, and I reached up to the strap that was attached to Grace's life jacket, and I helped my flailing friend into the water. You see, she couldn't swim. She couldn't float. So I helped her back to the land. And once we both got there, and enjoying the comfort of solid ground beneath our bodies, I reflected. From the time, the 180 that happened from when Grace pulled the rope for me and I pulled the rope for her, I realized that our stunts and adventures would continue. And who knows, you may read of us in the Guinness World Book of Records. Probably not. Now, there's that usual debate between what's more important, the journey or the destination. And I have to say that it's the company. And that's why I'm so glad you were able to join me today.